A weekday afternoon at a large public library can look calm from the outside. People move quietly between shelves, sit at tables with laptops, or browse rows of books. Visitors enter through the main doors, pass a reception desk, and move through wide corridors. Yet the building is designed around a situation that rarely occurs. Along the walls and at the edges of large rooms, small illuminated signs mark doors that most visitors barely notice. Near stairwells, at corridor intersections, and along the perimeter of open spaces, these signs indicate exits. Their placement is rarely left to an architect's preference. Instead, exit locations follow standardized rules, developed through decades of regulation and safety planning. The goal is not convenience during everyday activity. The goal is predictability during rare moments of urgency. Public buildings operate under a different set of expectations than private spaces. A house can be arranged according to personal preference. A courthouse, hospital, or library cannot. These environments must function for people who have never visited before. Every day, unfamiliar visitors enter these spaces without knowing the layout. Under normal circumstances, this simply slows navigation slightly, as people look for directions. But during an evacuation, unfamiliarity becomes a risk. People must locate exits quickly, often in crowded environments. Because of this, exit placement cannot depend on guesswork or individual design choices. Building codes define where exits should appear, so occupants can find them without prior knowledge. In many public buildings, exits are placed along exterior walls whenever possible. This arrangement is practical because doors along the perimeter can lead directly outside, but it also aligns with how people tend to orient themselves when trying to leave an unfamiliar building. When searching for a way out, people often move toward outer boundaries. Exterior walls provide a simple spatial reference point. By placing exits along these edges, designers align evacuation routes with that instinctive movement. Another principle involves travel distance. Building codes often define the maximum distance a person should need to walk to reach an exit. If rooms or corridors become too large without access to an exit route, additional exits must be added. This spreads exits throughout the structure, rather than concentrating them in one location. Large rooms, halls, or waiting areas, therefore often contain multiple exit doors spaced along the perimeter. The pattern may appear repetitive, but repetition creates predictability. People do not need to memorize the layout. They can rely on expectation. Corridors also shape how exits are positioned. In many public buildings, hallways form the primary circulation network. Visitors move through these corridors to reach offices, classrooms, or service counters. Because these paths already guide everyday movement, safety standards often extend them toward exits. Doors leading outside or to stairwells frequently appear at corridor ends or intersections. This allows occupants to continue moving in the same direction during evacuation, rather than searching for unfamiliar routes. Multi-story buildings introduce another standardized element: stairwells. Since upper floors cannot connect directly to outdoor exits, stairwells link multiple levels to ground-level doors. Safety regulations usually require more than one stairwell, so occupants have alternative routes if one becomes inaccessible. These stairwells are typically located near structural cores or at corridor ends, where they are easy to reach. Over time, these requirements produced a recognizable pattern. Across many types of buildings, stairwell doors often appear near hallway intersections, while exit doors line the outer walls of large spaces. Although each building has a unique layout, the underlying structure remains consistent. The development of these standards came from decades of safety research. Engineers studied how people move during emergencies, measuring crowd flow through doors and observing where congestion forms in corridors and stairwells. These observations gradually shaped building codes. Door widths were standardized so groups could pass efficiently. Exit doors were required to open outward so crowds could push them open easily. Exit routes were required to remain unobstructed. Placement rules became part of this same framework. Instead of leaving safety decisions to individual architects, institutions created consistent requirements applied across many buildings. Inspection procedures reinforce these standards. Public buildings typically undergo regular safety inspections to confirm that exit routes remain accessible and clearly marked. If an exit door becomes blocked or difficult to access, Building operators must correct the issue. These inspections ensure that exit systems remain reliable. Long after construction, over time, standardized layouts have also influenced how people interpret unfamiliar spaces. Visitors entering a large building often glance toward the edges of a room to locate possible exits. In hallways, they may expect stairwells or doors near intersections, or at the far end of the corridor. These expectations develop through repeated exposure. After encountering similar layouts across many buildings, occupants form an intuitive sense of where exits are likely to be found. Signage supports this system. Illuminated exit signs guide people toward doors, but their effectiveness depends on predictable placement. If exits appeared in random locations, signs alone would not be enough. Standardized placement allows signage and architecture to reinforce each other. Even modern buildings with advanced safety technology still follow these same principles. Fire detection systems, alarms, and smoke control technology have improved significantly, yet the basic logic of exit placement remains largely unchanged. Human movement under stress has not changed. People still rely on simple spatial cues. When navigating unfamiliar environments, standardized exit placement works because it aligns with those predictable tendencies. In everyday life, exits fade into the background. Visitors enter buildings through main entrances, move through offices or waiting areas, and leave through the same doors they used before. Emergency exits remain closed and rarely used, yet their presence shapes the organization of the entire structure. Across hospitals, libraries, transit terminals, and government buildings, the same spatial patterns appear again and again. Different architects design different buildings, but exits tend to appear where people expect them, along outer walls, at corridor ends, or beside stairwells. Through decades of regulation, engineering practice, and repeated construction, this system became one of the most stable features of public architecture. Most occupants never notice it directly, but when someone enters an unfamiliar building and briefly scans the room's edges for an exit sign, they are responding to that shared pattern. The exits are where people expect them to be, and that expectation is exactly what allows the system to continue functioning reliably today.